I'm headed for a land that's far away, beside the crystal fountain. So come with me, we'll go and see the big rock candy mountains.
And we're back. We're on and we're ready to go. This is the Great Classic Rock Debate. I'm Kenny.
I'm Paul with 0 qualifications.
And I'm Steve.
And we talk anything and everything classic rock. We try to keep it fun. We try to keep it interesting. If you're watching, please like, comment, and subscribe. Leave us a few comments down there. We really love that. And don't forget to check out our sister channel, The Great Classic Movie Debate. Okay, for tonight, if I understand this correctly, one of you guys, I think it was Paul, who threw out this idea, said, let's talk classic rock in the more current or contemporary sense. So if I understood that correctly, here's what I'm going to toss out, and you guys tell me if you like this. What I'm thinking is, for tonight, let's do the post-millennium, post-2000, new millennium classic rock. Whatever we just sort of feel, it's going to be largely opinion, I suppose. Whatever we feel qualifies. And we try not to go too far out of the beaten path because we don't want to talk about a lot of bands that nobody's heard of. But if that's okay with you guys, we'll do that for tonight. What do you think?
Yeah, I was coming from the angle of who is the youngest classic rock band that gets airplay. I know we know some bands. I know quite a few who aren't necessarily classic rock, but as we look at Steve's thorax.
So I was trying to turn the volume down on my computer. I couldn't see it. So
who's the newest classic rock entrant?
Okay, let me start with this, and then I want to go to Steve next because I listen to the local terrestrial classic rock station. Steve listens to a satellite station, which I'm sure is probably going to he's probably got a better answer than I am. But on the local station here, KGR, the most recent, and I should probably put quotes around the word recent, but the most recent song I have ever heard on that station is the song Boulevard of Broken Dreams by Green Day. And that song is from 2005. That's the most, and just to go a little more general, virtually everything that station plays that is post 2000, for me, I'll either use the word awful or it's just so far out of, like, it just doesn't belong on a classic rock station. It's just, they're reaching, and it makes me go, oh man, it gets hard to listen to the station sometimes. So that was kind of the reason I was thinking with tonight, maybe we can go in the direction of songs that they should be playing and that do sort of fit the bill. Anyway, Steve, what has been your experience with the satellite?
Yeah, so satellite radio is great. I would say the bands that I hear most often, probably the White Stripes, that I think fit the bill of kind of the classic rock.
They do.
Genre. Not my favorite. Obviously, we all know Greta Van Fleet.
Right.
So, and they're new, so I don't think they necessarily qualify, but
correct. If we're going to try to impose our minimum age of 15 to 20 years, for tonight, we'll say 15.
Yeah.
Then Greta Van Fleet is probably a little too new, even though their sound is definitely the right sound.
Yeah. I would. Do you want me to name another band, or Paul?
Go ahead. Yeah. Go ahead.
So I would say two more that I'll list, and they're not. Well, the first one I'll list is not necessarily my favorite. The Black Keys, and definitely give a shout out because they are from Ohio, from Akron. So,
okay.
Few good things actually came out of that state.
Don't say it. I know we're.
No.
Don't say it.
Probably one of that flies under the radar. They're an Australian band. Started in the early 2000s, but I think their first major record came out in 2007. So And it's their self-titled Airborne album. So they have a very AC/DC sound to them.
Yes, I know who they are. Yeah, I've heard.
I had very high hopes when they first came out. They kind of have teetered off in the last couple of years, but they have a few really solid albums. So
okay,
that's kind of comes to the top of mind for me.
okay. What's that one big hit song by the White Stripes?
Seven Nation Army.
Yeah.
That one has taken on a life of its own. They play that at stadiums and sporting events.
Yeah, the high school bands play it at high school football games and college.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
Penn State plays it. So every time we play them, every time they get beat down by Ohio State, I have to listen to that song in the third quarter. So
It's
Well,
really
go ahead.
sad. Like, it's really sad that it's a weird phenomenon. So if you were to listen to WSHE, the station that Ken and I grew up on, Miami, one of the flagship American radio stations for classic rock, and there's one in New York City called WPLJ. Very famous classic rock. They've been off of classic rock for 20, 25 years. And so when Led Zeppelin came out with an album, let's say Led Zeppelin Presence came out, I don't think these radio stations, WSHE and WPLJ, waited 15 years to play Led Zeppelin Presence album. Now, it's not because they were already, or Led Zeppelin hadn't been finished playing. You see what I'm saying? You see where I'm going with this, right? Like, only now, like a band that you two didn't mention, which I think is called Wolf Mother from Australia.
Yeah.
that was next on my list.
And powerful. I've seen them like 3 times in Los Angeles. I've come to find out because of Steve Boyce that he got a lot of his act from Mark Bolan of T-Rex. The voice.
Wow, interesting.
I'm like, oh, this is where Wolf Mother got his stuff from.
Yeah.
This Wolf Mother is super talented. I am not ripping him in any way. And dude, that's a compliment. If you want to copy Mark Bolan, I'm all for it because I would have done the same damn thing.
Yeah.
Right? I'm not ripping on him at all. I love him. So, but you don't hear them. I heard Wolf Mother on Steve Jones's radio station in LA. And that man, he was a guitar player for the Sex Pistols. He had an encyclopedic knowledge of music. And unlike the three of us, he actually knows all these people. So you can say, hey, Steve Jones wants you to come on a show. And they're coming on a show. Okay. And like we talked about before. So, yeah, so let's go back. Yeah, it's so frustrating. Like, why don't they play Wolf Mother? Why don't they play this Airborne? Why don't they play these other bands? They just suck. And they need to be drawn out, executed.
That's like, I contribute Sirius XM to me discovering one of my favorite bands, which is a Swedish band called Graveyard, which if you listen to I think it's 2012 album, His Singin' Blues, oh man, it is incredible. They're one of the greatest live bands I've ever seen. I think they may have been broken up now, but they put out about 4 really good albums, and English is not their native language.
Oh, okay.
But I think they figured out, like, if they want to appeal to the masses, they better sing in English. But really, really strong classic rock, really kind of, I don't know if they call it stoner riffs, but really good. I think you would like them, Kenny.
Okay.
They have a great classic rock sound. And I think the band was really led by the drummer and the guitar lead singer, because when the drummer left, the band kind of fizzled out at that point. So and watching them during the live shows, you can really see that.
And the name is Graveyard.
Yeah, Graveyard. Much like kind of the Police, like a lot of it, even though Sting was in the band, like really that's Stuart Copeland's band. So
that's correct. I saw them at the place called the El Rey, R-E-Y, very famous place in LA. I saw Graveyard. I liked it. I was really tired that night, and I went anyway. And these places you have to stand. And I'm getting too old to stand for 2.5 hours now. This is even 10 years ago. I was like, yeah, sounds pretty good, but I'm getting ready to go home. I'm tired. But it's just such an indictment on how crappy the terrestrial. It's just garbage upon garbage, and the other one is
it's mindless. That's the part that bothers me. It's mindless. We mentioned a few episodes back how there was a time when the role of the DJ was to go out and find music. The music's out there, go out and find it. And then when you play it on the air, people will go, oh my God, where does this guy get this music? It's great. They just play predetermined corporate playlists, and it's mindless. There's no thought put into it. Make sure you check the box that says Def Leppard. Make sure you check the box that says whatever. And it's repetitive.
Well, I think the sad thing is, I don't think a lot of it even exists anyways. I don't think a lot of it's just not discovered because it's not out there.
That's
And
what
I
I'm trying to
think
say
a lot of
now.
it is, yeah, modern bands, I don't think they don't have the guitar heroes to look up to like we did.
Yeah.
Really growing up. I mean,
Yeah.
really in the past probably 15, 20 years, I can probably count out 5 bands that I actually really like, and we've listed most of them. The other band we haven't talked about is The Sword.
Right.
And aside from that, and they're much harder than the bands
we talked about them a few months ago, I think, didn't we? Yeah.
But
Yes.
there's really not there's just a lack of bands that I would actually want to go see, and it's such a shame.
Yeah, I was trying to take guitar lessons about 2 years ago, and the guy who taught me, very, very good player, he's probably 72 years old, and he said he listens. I was share stuff with him, and he goes, "These guys cannot play. Like they can play the chords, and they can play a little bit. They cannot hit the solos. They can't play like all these guys." And he goes, "You could just tell they have 4 albums or 4 songs. They put an album together, and then he goes, this is the reason why the classic rock radio." Steve, absolutely right. There's no guitar riffs. There's no. And someone said once, "Oh, every guitar riff has been done before." No, the chords, yes, but not So it's sad, just sad.
Yeah.
Okay, so go ahead, Steve.
I was just gonna say the one band we haven't talked about is Limp Bizkit.
Yeah, and it's unlikely to happen, at least tonight. Okay, so listen, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put out a few songs, like singles, as opposed, I mean, certain bands we can just say, okay, this band is a classic rock band. And then there's other cases where you're going to have a song that you might think of as a classic rock song, even though the band makes a lot of other songs that you would not. So I'm going to start with, this band is pretty much at the end of their life, but in the early 2000s, Aerosmith had a song called Jaded that I thought was pretty good, even though I've heard people give really polarized opinions on it, but I still think it sounds good. Early 2001.
Is that Jaded Got a Gun? No?
Almost.
That's their worst album to me.
Okay. I really don't know the album. Oh, the album Pump. That was from like what, 91 or something, wasn't
89,
it?
89.
Yeah, 89. Yeah.
I just don't like Janie's Got a Gun. I like a lot of the other stuff from that.
I just said I'd be an idiot.
Yeah, we kind of understood that.
We have a Joe. We might have a Joe Perry story too.
Yeah.
We don't do that tonight. No.
Okay. Okay. Oh, by the way, I'm going to step completely off topic and then just come right back. Earlier this afternoon, I posted to our channel, Les Dudek, Old Judge Jones. All right. So if you get a chance, just click on it and give it a listen. It's very 70s, and it's, I don't know. I think you'll like it. I think anybody would like it.
Hold on, let me interrupt. There's one more band that we did. I turned Steve onto it about 5 years ago. They should be a staple. I mean, a staple of classic rock. Steve and I saw them open for Black Sabbath, called Rival Sons.
Oh yeah.
How could I forget them?
Yeah, Long Beach, and they have like 5 or 6 really good albums of material.
They're
and
really
those
good.
Staples on classic rock, but no.
They are in a Chevy commercial though. I think it's a Chevy. It's a truck commercial. Pressure in Time. That is in a truck commercial that's airing right now.
Okay. We have mentioned them before, but they fall like Greta Van Fleet. They fall within the 15-year age thing, so they're not really quite old enough.
Yeah, but my point is, earlier, if Led Zeppelin Presence got played on the radio within a year or two of its release, and why, and I just say this is not our
Your point is valid. Your point is valid. By the way, back in 1999, I love this story. Back in 1999, I'm in the gym working out one day, and they're playing a classic rock station on the radio. And it was not KGR. I think it was one out of Fort Lauderdale. And the DJ comes on and says, all right, technically this isn't classic rock because it's new, but it's gonna be classic rock, and I'm playing it anyway. And he played Smooth by Santana. And I go, all right, that was pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
it's a classic rock artist, so I think that's
what it, I think that's kind of what he was getting at.
Don't get me wrong, I love that song. I'm not ripping on the song. Yeah.
So anyway, I wish classic rock stations or classic rock DJs would feel a little more latitude to do that kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, it would be better if actually modern rock stations play that music. Because back in the day, in the 70s, if it was, after AM radio, once FM radio became the popular format, I mean, wouldn't those classic rock songs been played on the top 40 stations? I don't know. I didn't really live in that era.
I mean, a lot of them were, yeah.
So it would be nice if like the top 40, which people talk about Taylor Swift. If she was on the radio, I would never know. I don't know what she sounds like.
Right.
So, but it would be nice if those top 40 stations played modern rock music.
Right. What we were seeing in the second half of the 70s was the, I think it was a new thing, album-oriented rock, AOR, where they were playing, album tracks. If there was a song that was a popular single, they would play that, but then they would always play one or two other tracks. So the station was pretty much a rock station, but you were getting a little more than just the top 40 choices. So that was kind of cool, I thought.
What I love about album-oriented bands, or rock, is the fact like bands like Led Zeppelin and the Beatles to some extent, I'm like, they don't have any filler. Like you could pull off any song from any one of their albums, and the vast majority of people would know it. So
and they're good.
I just found it fascinating because on XM they have a station called Deep Tracks, which plays deep tracks from albums, and occasionally they'll put a Led Zeppelin song on there. I'm like, this is a popular song, everybody knows that one. So it's just it's just kind of funny. Anyways, sorry.
Okay, so
hold on one second. Did anyone of you see the movie Airheads?
Oh yeah, I got the soundtrack.
I did not.
It's a really good movie, and the movie's basically talking about this show and this band. They go into a street and they hold the DJ hostage because you won't play any music. They're in a band like Adam Sandler.
You talked about this on here once.
Yeah, and near the end of the movie, I think it's Sandler or one of them are looking at the carts on the radio list, and he sees all these bands that are really cool and they will never be played on the radio. He goes, "Oh my God, you guys see the bands? You want to play it? They won't let us." And this is what I hate about classic rock. Like one time, the band like Breaking the Girl came on, and the guy says, "Yeah, Breaking the Girl by the Chili's." Like it just made me like he was just going through the motions. Instead of saying Red Hot Chili Peppers, it's Breaking the Girl by the Chili's. Like he actually knows them, or he's bored of saying the name. I just thought this guy is the biggest jackass on earth. Like,
well, you guys have talked about it. Like, if they play ZZ Top, you're going to hear the same 5 songs from ZZ Top.
Yeah.
They're not going to go into the deep tracks, so to speak.
Yeah. Okay, so listen, let me throw out a few other names, and you guys tell me, because I chose these specifically because they fall between the 2000 and 2008 timeframe. So that puts them in, at least they qualify, or they should qualify. How about Shinedown?
I've seen them live. I like some of their stuff, but that's never going to be a classic rock.
Yeah.
Really? Huh.
I bought one of their CDs back in the day. I listened to it once. That was the last time I really listened to them.
Really?
I like some of their songs. I'm saying I don't think they'll be played on classic rock. Steve's saying he doesn't like them. I like some of their stuff, and
they're kind of like a Nickelback group. And I'm not piling on Nickelback. That's just they kind of have that.
Okay, so let me just make this, since you mentioned that, let me put this in, because I think that Nickelback gets, man, they get a lot of flack, right? And I'm not going to defend them, but they have 2 or 3 songs, especially that first one that was the hit that was called How You Remind Me or whatever. They have 2 or 3 songs that I hear on classic rock radio that I'm not offended by. The trouble is they have so many other crappy songs that it's hard to say, yeah, I really like Nickelback, you know, because I don't. But they have a few songs that I think are decent. Shinedown, for me, is just a much better version of that. I think they have way more good songs. And I could probably name at least 5 that I think would fit into a classic rock format without being disruptive or anything.
No, I'm agreeing with you, Kenny. I'm just saying they're not going to be played.
Okay. All right. Fair enough.
100%.
Especially if they're promoting themselves as a better version of Nickelback.
I hope they're not.
I know.
Listen, that came out of my mouth. Don't repeat it. Off the cuff. Don't repeat it. Don't repeat it. Okay. What about, oh, you know, here's another song. It's kind of a standalone, but I think it's pretty good. That song, Like a Stone by Audioslave.
So Audioslave, this got me thinking. Last week I made a comment about supergroups and how they don't really succeed.
Right.
Audioslave is one of the very few exceptions, I think.
Okay.
I agree.
That's a great track, but Audioslave in general, they put out, I think it was 3 really great albums.
Okay.
Yeah.
They're now, I mean, that first album of theirs came out in 2001, I think. So
I think that song was about 2003. I'm not positive of that. That's really the only Audioslave song I think that I know. But for me, it fits right into a classic rock format. I think it's
like
great.
Cochise, you show me how to live. Tell me, how's that song? How's that go, Steve? You gave me life, now show me. He's like basically talking to God, I think.
Show me how to live. Yeah, their
and
second album is not as strong, but their third album is also really, really good.
Okay,
and that was probably 2006, 2007, because I was living in Colorado when that came out. But yeah, check out the third album. It's really good. I can't remember the name of it. I think it's Revelations might be it.
Okay. All right. Check it out. Okay. What about Chevelle? Chevelle.
I heard of them. I think Steve mentioned them to me maybe 10 years ago, and it didn't grab me. I can't remember. Steve, help me.
No, it wasn't me. Again, yeah.
The only person I know.
Radio, I don't hear them on XM that often.
Okay. I think that they've kind of faded from glory now, but there were a period of years, a few years there, where several of their songs were getting a lot of play on rock stations. And I thought that they were pretty decent. I mean, they had a handful of songs that if I heard it, I'm like, wow, that's
yeah.
Do you know who the band is called Breaking Benjamin?
Yeah.
Okay. Let me tell you how I first discovered them. Once again, I'm in the gym working out and I'm hearing one particular song. There's music playing and they're not saying who the artist is or anything, but I hear this song for about maybe the 3rd time or even the 4th time. I go, you know, this is pretty good. So I had to ask around, or maybe somebody Shazammed it or whatever. And somebody says that song is called Breath by Breaking Benjamin. So I got to tell you, I went home and pulled it up on YouTube. It's a really good song. So, I mean, for me it is. And I think they have, again, 3 or 4 other really good rock songs. They sort of push that line between alternative versus more mainstream or whatever, but it's hard and pretty good stuff, I think.
I've heard the same probably handful of songs from them. I could never get into them. To me, they always sounded like everybody else on most of the newer hard rock bands were.
Okay.
They just all sound very.
That new metal stuff, is it?
No.
I cannot stand that.
Like System of a Down, they're classified as new metal, and I love them. They got a very unique sound.
They have that's a different. They're not new metal. They're their own thing, in my opinion. That was going to be on your list, System of a Down, Ken, or they're not really.
No.
They came out in the late 90s.
I know. Yeah. That's a good point.
Okay. My next one was going to be Seether, Seether. You guys remember them?
Yeah. I classify them as kind of in the Breaking Benjamin category.
Yeah, I agree. I thought they were kind of similar. Now, for me, these guys had, like, I'm going to say probably about 5 what I thought were really good songs. First of all, the one that got the most play was, it was called Broken, and it's a slow song, and it's a duet with them. And I think Amy Lee is her name. She's the vocalist of Evanescence. Did I say that right? Evanescence?
That's Paul's favorite band.
Oh,
It's my favorite.
they're not my favorite, but
Just for the record, I'm with Paul on this too. So
okay.
he's just a lot more vocal about it.
I'm not here to take a stand for Evanescence, but the girl I think she's the lead singer for Evanescence, she does a duet with the vocalist or Seether on this song Broken. Their original version was not a duet. So the song was sort of redone as a duet and became a big hit. And I think it was from the soundtrack for The Punisher with Thomas, whatever his name is.
Thomas Jane.
Thomas Jane, yes. Yes.
I never thought I would say this, but as you go through this list, I'm starting to realize that I cannot stand modern day hard rock. And
And with you, Steve, 100.
I think it's because of, I don't think it's my taste. I think it's just the direction that it's.
And it sounds like, I think Steve's right, because like everyone, all these bands you mentioned, none of them are on my skirt up. And part of it is I stopped listening to terrestrial radio 15, 20 years ago.
Right.
I go out and look for my own bands. That's what I've always done since I left South Florida.
I click around on YouTube to try to find stuff.
I do a damn good job. There's a guy on YouTube called Stone Metal of Doom. And he's mostly got European bands. A lot of them sound really, really good. They're way more talented than these American bands like you were just talking about.
Interesting. Okay.
And,
well, let me slip this in real quick here, because you mentioned European bands. So I discovered this, I don't know, probably 10 years ago or something like that, but I thought it was so cool. So back in the 80s, Steve, you were still a youngster, but back in the 80s, it was 70s and 80s actually, when there was just a lot of hard rock bands. I mean, Guns N' Roses is probably the best prototype, but lots of bands like that, right? And some are way better than others, but it was a style of music. It was a style. And that style kind of got left behind in the 90s. We talked about how Nirvana sort of changed the direction of rock, and that style kind of got left behind. You weren't seeing these. If they did exist, they weren't getting any PR, any radio play. And I don't think on MTV either. But that style of music kind of got left in the 70s and 80s, and then the 90s took us in a whole new direction. But over in Europe, particularly Sweden, it's like it just got bigger. And there are so many bands, so many hard rock bands who still play that 70s, 80s, I don't know, like guitar driven arena rock style of music, and really, really, really fantastic stuff that unfortunately you'll never hear over here.
That's Graveyard. That's the band Graveyard.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Kenny, you're right. And there's like a band, this lady who was my doctor, a neurologist in Colorado, turned me on to a band called Kvelertak, which is Norwegian for chokehold. And they have one of the greatest songs I've ever heard in my life. And the video is like this weird adaptation of Clockwork Orange. I did it for Steve, and I don't think Steve realized what, at first what he was watching. This is a weird ass video. It's about this guy who hates his life, and he leaves his apartment in the city. He goes out in this beat up, destroyed house with these guys, and they start to beat him up. And finally, he starts to fight back. And they're trying to make him tough. And then they go out and start wreaking havoc on the world. And at the end of the video, the guy who was the city guy, he is now their leader. He's on top of there's a literal throne, and the other guys are with him. It's a really cool song called 1985.
Okay.
So yes, you guys are right.
What's interesting now, I just did a quick search for Swedish rock bands, and there's a lot of bands I didn't realize. There's a kind of a newer band. They've been around for 20 years. Volbeat, which is a very kind of hard rock.
Warrior song.
I love them. And they're
Yeah.
actually they were formed in Copenhagen.
Those guys are good. They are really
Well,
good.
Copenhagen is in Denmark, I think. Right?
Oh yeah, yeah,
Whatever. It's
yeah. It's all
close
the
enough.
same.
They're neighbors.
Exactly.
A Warrior
So
song, that's a great song. Right? That's a badass song. And they do it for soldiers. They're very patriotic, even though they're not Americans.
Okay, yeah, I like those guys. And
Yeah,
here's
they're
another
awesome.
thing I noticed about
Right.
a lot of these European bands. If you either see them in the video or see pictures of them, like it'll have 2 or 3 members who are old generation guys. They're much older. And then
Yeah.
they'll have like 2 guys in their 20s. And you say to yourself, wow, because these young guys who are probably immensely talented, but they don't have it in their bones the way the older guys do. Let me show you kids a trick or two, you know. And oftentimes the younger guys are the vocalists. But I was like, wow, I've seen this now numerous times where you've got this big range in the ages, but they sound great.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. The sound is classic. I mean, with Steve, I haven't told Steve this yet, but about the second or third time I watched that Mark Bolan video of Buick McCain, I almost started crying. I was like, this is what it is about right here. Because that guy just says, okay, you ready? I'm going to blast. That's it. And you just start playing. You're like, oh my God. He's not preening. He's not, well, let me do some selfies. He's like, fuck all that. Oops, sorry. I'm just going to be a rock star. Let me show you what a rock star is.
what's amazing is it took me, I mean, I've obviously heard of T-Rex, but it took me that long to actually discover that video. You watch it, it's raw, it's live, and you're like, how did these guys not blow up in the United States?
Yeah.
I mean, you watching it, it's like, yeah, that's where the White Stripes got their and Wolf Mother. You're like, I can definitely see that.
Okay. All right. Hey guys, we got our warning, so we're going to have to wrap it up. Does anybody have any final thoughts?
Yeah, I just got, speaking of classic rock, I ordered, it's the 40th anniversary of Rush Signals Collector's Edition.
Nice.
One of the greatest albums ever made. Steve's not a big Rush fan, but one of our shows I want to do, not counting live, but I want to do best guitar solo in a song. We can have a fun with that one night. We can rip on each other. That would be really fun.
Okay.
My number 1 solo is from a song called The Analog Kid. And where he uses, what's it called? A tremolo bar, the whammy bar, Steve? That's the name of it?
Yeah.
And Alex Lifeson uses it. And there's a story, I think I've told Kenny, we went to a air guitar contest in Birmingham. I was not in it, but we had this guy. He basically did the Andy Kaufman thing. So he's playing the song, he's just strumming. And when it gets to the guitar solo, he starts ripping away on it. And as soon as the guitar solo is over, he goes right back to play again, like Mighty Mouse, Andy Kaufman and Mighty Mouse. And they won. They won the air guitar contest.
Nice.
His name was Moyers. Very cool guy, strange guy. I love you, Moyers, if you're still alive. Anyway, go ahead. That's me. I'm done.
Okay. All right. Well, if anyone doesn't have anything else, we can go ahead and make our nominations.
I will go with somebody. The Struts.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
That's a band I don't think we mentioned. So I just want to
did
throw it
not.
out there. So 2010-ish. Or
Okay. So they're a little young, but that's okay. Give me a good
young,
song
yeah.
that would fit right in on a classic rock format.
Yeah, I think they have a great. They don't sound like Queen, but their singer, he's got a great range, kind of like Freddie Mercury, so.
Okay. All right.
Kenny?
Yeah. Okay. So I mentioned Seether earlier, and they've got about 5 songs that I think fit right into a classic rock format. The one in particular that I probably think is my favorite is called Rise Above This. You guys have probably heard it before. It's got kind of a mainstream rock kind of sound, but very catchy. And I just think it's a great song. And it pisses me off that I never hear it on classic rock. But anyway, Seether, Rise Above This.
Mine is from 1999, and it's in my top 5 albums ever made. It's called The Devil's Playground by Billy Idol. This thing is scorch. from the first second to the end. It is Scorchorama. Steve Stevens is just a wizard, and the song qualities. Oh my God. It's a bunch of really cool songs on the album. I highly recommend that album.
Yeah, that is a desert album or desert island album.
Okay.
Paul turned me on to that when it came out. He said, "You're not going to believe this. This is one of the greatest albums ever made by Billy Idol." And I was like, I mean, I like Billy Idol, but I listened to that. I was like, "You're right." About 3 songs into it, I was like, "Yeah, this is one of the best albums of all time."
Good to know. All right. All kinds of pearls of wisdom you get here on the Great Classic Rock Debate. All right,
necklace of wisdom.
Yeah, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up for tonight. So this is the Great Classic Rock Debate. I'm Kenny.
I'm Paul.
And I'm Steve.
And if you happen to be watching, please like, comment, and subscribe. We will love you for that. Don't forget to check out our sister channel, the Great Classic Movie Debate. Until we meet again, we will see you next time.
Light us.